Hello and welcome to this week's What Were They Thinking? The first topic this week is anti-vaxxers who have suddenly found religion. In every state in America, vaccinations are mandatory for attending school. There are limited exceptions. In 45 states, there is an allowance for religious exemptions, which is surprising given that most religions have no issue with vaccinations. This is where a study examining data from 2011 to 2018 comes in. They were looking to see what effect removing personal exemptions from the list of possible allowed reasons not to be vaccinated would have on the vaccination rate. What they found was that the religious exemption category went from representing 0.5% to 3.7% of students. Overall, they found that there was a decrease in the exemption rate overall. However, this increase in religious exemptions seems to be a substitution rather than a true belief in a religious dogma that prevents vaccination. In other interesting research news, brain scans of boys and girls doing math has found there is no difference, and this could prove to be yet another landmine. There is an argument put forward at times that boys and girls have different strengths, particularly when it comes to math. However, brain scans of 104 children between 3 and 10 years, while watching videos on maths, found that there was no difference in how the brain behaved. This, of course, leads to questions about why males and females choose different fields, with maths being predominantly male, since it appears that at least as children, they can perform to the same degree with no noticeable difference between the sexes. This does further support the argument made by James Damore at Google that overall the abilities of men and women are similar. The difference appears to be one of interests, as has been argued by many experts over the years, and as evidenced particularly by the Nordic countries. There does appear to be a sexual difference and preference in fields people enter. If, on the basis of this brain scan study, there's no functional difference in the brain, there must be other causes behind it. And, based on that Nordic data, it appears to be something other than preconceived societal issues, which unfortunately is where the researchers wind up arguing, that it is these stereotypes that wind up with more males in STEM fields than females. In health-related news, the CDC has identified the chemical that is tied to the vaping illness. This is a saga that has been running for months now, and with 29 patients across 10 different states. They found that vitamin E acetate was present in all patients that they investigated, and that it is a very sticky substance that causes trouble in the lungs. More precisely, it doesn't go away. The CDC won't confirm that that is definitively the cause, but they do believe it is a leading suspect. Vitamin E acetate is commonly found in illegally purchased THC vaping products. It's used to dilute and adulterate the THC component. As a result, the CDC is strongly recommending that people should not vape at all, but if they are going to do so, avoid THC products. As it stands now, 2,051 people are sick in the US from this mysterious illness, and 39 have died. In an extension of this news, doctors claim to have performed the first double lung transplant as a direct result of the mysterious vaping illness. Doctors from Michigan claimed that they have performed a double lung transplant on a patient whose lungs were damaged from vaping. This stems from more than a month on life support machines after complete lung failure. This meant the 17-year-old male had to undergo a 6-hour transplant surgery. Much like with the autopsy information, his lungs, once they were removed, presented with enormous inflammation and scarring. There was also necrosis. The lung was firm and scarred. The damage was so bad that one surgeon described it as an evil that I haven't faced before. The family says that they hope this surgery and all the other mounting evidence will underscore the dangers of vaping, particularly given the unknown cause. In other respiratory news, 2 patients have been diagnosed and hospitalized with pneumonic plague in China. Local officials claim that on Tuesday, 2 individuals were being treated at a central hospital due to pneumonic plague. This is a very dangerous disease which can be fatal in between 1 and 3 days. It is also incredibly virulent. The 2 patients are said to be from northwestern Inner Mongolia. This is roughly where it is said the plague originated from. China has refused to respond to any requests for clarification. However, they followed international guidelines and reported the 2 instances to the World Health Organization, which is how we know about it now. In other health-related news, an article in The Conversation has put forward a case that men should be periodically tested for prostate cancer if they have a faulty BRCA2 gene. The BRCA2 gene is more commonly associated with women and breast cancer, and if there is a significant mutation, some women will choose to have a double mastectomy rather than carry the greater risk of breast cancer. The evidence being discussed in The Conversation demonstrates that there is a good chance that men with the same mutation are at an increased risk of aggressive prostate cancer. This is a 5-fold increase over those who do not have such a mutation. They are also twice as likely to have other versions of prostate cancer that aren't quite as dangerous. The argument made is that men should have a prostate antigen test, which is a blood test, for cancer every year if they have this mutant gene. This would at least go a significant way towards decreasing the mortality and increasing the quality of life for those who are diagnosed with a form of prostate cancer. In other research news about misconduct, South Korean academics are getting in a lot of trouble for naming their children, other children, and even sometimes strangers' children as authors on research papers. It's believed this is to increase the chances of them getting into the highly competitive Korean universities. This first came out in 2017, and it has only been getting worse since. The ministry has stated that a number of articles have been identified that have unjustified authorship. This means that the children did not really contribute anything. In fact, up to 24 papers out of what was originally thought to be hundreds. In another example of misconduct, but this time in an entertaining manner, a murderer has been seeking to appeal his sentence to prison after he died there. The 66-year-old claims that having died while in prison, he has now fulfilled the terms of his sentence, which was life in prison. His first application to have his judgment appealed was effectively thrown out. The second attempt went to the Court of Appeals, who really were not interested. One of the judges has said, the man is either alive, in which case he must remain in prison, or he is dead, in which case the appeal is moot. In astronomical news, Japan's Hayabusa 2 will leave its orbit around the asteroid Ryugu and return to Earth on Wednesday. Ryugu is the asteroid that Japan's Hayabusa 2 probe bombed and then went to collect samples from some time ago. The hope is that by 2020, the probe will have returned to Earth with its payload that will allow us to gain knowledge about not only that particular asteroid, but the prospectively organic matter that can be found on it, how the solar system developed, and how all this relates to Earth. The Japanese Aeronautical Space Agency plans to have the probe fall into parts of Australia. However, they are still in the process of negotiating not only the where, but even if they can do this. In other astronomical news, NASA has been pushed to rename one of its astronomical bodies. The celestial location discovered by the New Horizons team was given the name Ultima Thule, after a mythical northern land that you will find in medieval European literature. Think of it as being similar to Asgard. However, there was backlash over this, as the silliness about its co-opting by far-right German occultists in the earlier 20th century led to them believing it was somehow inappropriate, and instead, it has now been given the new name Arrokoth. This is a Native American word for sky. As the team responsible for the original name notes, historically that name was very positive, and we only realized that under certain contexts was it negative. In other research that in the future with hindsight might prove to be a regrettable decision, MIT researchers have created tiny cube-shaped robots that both swarm and have a hive mind. The MIT researchers released video of this particular new design called M-Block 2.0 cubes. The cube-shaped robots are actually quite worrying in their ability to engage in a number of complex behaviors. This can go from building formations, shuffling, moving, and even being able to throw themselves around by working in conjunction with other cube-shaped robots. The video is only a prelude to a presentation at the IEEE International Conference on Intelligent Robots and Systems, and hopefully more details will be given there. The fact is that with their design, they can both build and conduct complex processes and process complex inputs and outputs. This allows them to do a lot, even as only tiny individual robots. Thank you for watching this video. If you have found it interesting, consider liking, sharing, and subscribing. Please post any comments, questions, or suggestions below.